Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Are the Game over here at Cabbit Crossing. And this is where us experienced game masters of various games share tips and tricks. And you can use it with whatever game you want to.
But we share only the tip.
Only the tip sometimes.
just the tip, right?
and we have our guest Christopher Tyner, aka Dreamslayer, back again, and we have Woody back with us this time.
Yes.
Speaking of Woody,
dear.
Oh wait a minute!
I got something in the mail.
Oh, look at that! It's the Space Odyssey.
Nice.
Yes. So as soon as I can convince my wife to offer digital sales, we'll put that up for sale. She's
cool.
Yeah, she's trying to start an Etsy store so we can sell the book physically. So
came with this.
Yes,
Hot Dog Man.
The Sound Hot Dog Man.
In case this is your first episode, this is a game that Woody created and co-created with your wife, and we played it in one of our actual plays. So just look up Sad Hot Dog Man RPG. There's probably not a lot of Sad Hot Dog Man.
Yeah, so just imagine Flash Gordon, but you can play a living hot dog.
I had two buttholes. One on each side.
Well, see, I think we finally figured out that the other cloaca on top of your head is what you hear through it. So that's,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
this has been an interesting start for this episode.
Yeah, I know. Well, to bring it down to earth, I missed the last one because I had to deal with a family emergency and ended up not being as bad as people were worrying about, and so I was only a little bit late.
Yeah.
So
better late than never.
Well, today's episode topic is the brain baby, this time of Tyners. Mm-hmm. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce us with this topic, and then we'll start discussion.
Well, today's topic is going to be kind of building and creating a long-form campaign. Last episode, we kind of talked a lot about world building, which really just kind of spills right into this particular topic. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of experience over the years in kind of creating these long form campaigns. When I step into something, I'm usually in it for the long haul. And that may be, 12 sessions, or it may be 10 years. It really just kind of depends on my gaming party, what they want to play and how long they want to play it. And, sometimes we go into it not knowing when the ending is going to happen. And then other times I kind of put at least an idea of how long I want this thing to go, So I think for me, in creating any type of campaign, whether it's short form or long form, you've got to figure out at the very start, figure out a strong beginning, and then know where you're going with it. Mm-hmm. I think when I'm conceptualizing, I'm always thinking about that opening scene and how I'm going to be able to set the tone to be able to tell the background of the world that these players are playing in. Yes, you can do a session 0, and yes, you can tell them, okay, so this is basically what's happening in this particular world and so forth. But until they're actually there at the table and living it, they don't really get the feel for it until they're really in character. Mm-hmm. So having that strong beginning, I think, is really the most important thing. It can be done through a simple monologue for the players, or told through the eyes of the characters as they discover elements of the world, as you kind of just introduce little bits and pieces. And it may be done as a group. It may be done separately, little vignettes for each individual character until the whole group is brought together. So that, I think, is what really sets the tone. And usually, I think for me, I may be unique in this, most of the time, unless I just start off with like a big how do you do battle right off of the top, which has happened in Marvel Galaxies with Marks. I knew that I needed some sort of big cataclysmic event to set everything going. Mm-hmm. But I'd say more often than not, my first session, there's usually very little rolling that happens, unless it's, like just little personality stuff like wisdom or charisma or something like that. Very little rolling. It should really, in my opinion, all be role play and let the characters kind of get to know each other. Once you have that figured out, though, then you have to think of the loose idea of where you're going and what is the finale going to be. And again, whether that's 6 sessions or 60, know what the ultimate goal should be, but be willing to change it just depending on what the players decide to do throughout the course of the campaign.
If I could jump in,
of course.
I have a counterpoint. Is that I for me, I think that like none of that stuff. I don't disagree with any of that, but I think that hooking the players on the story though is probably going to be a critical component of in order to have your long form campaign, you also have to get the players to buy in.
Yeah,
I remember this story experience talk with a friend who wanted to do his big campaign, and he had all these great ideas, and I've got this huge universe, and all this history, and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, but what are the players going to do? And there was like 10% of it. His prep for this was actually like, how do I make the players give a damn? Mm-hmm. And you still have to like hook them on that first adventure, because like for me, if like every campaign, whether I want it to be a longer term one or a short term one, is basically the same. You still have to hook the players on the first adventure really solidly and have something for them to do. And then if they can get invested in whatever's happening, you can build on that and get your long form campaign. And if they're willing and interested in that sort of thing, it's not hard to get them there. It's just that first, in interaction and getting them engaged with the story, I think is super important.
Yeah, I think we addressed a little bit of that in the world building episode that you missed, unfortunately. Because we talked about like having discussion about genres and stuff that they like and trying to find some kind of middle ground or mix of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a lot easier.
Just half of what you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot easier if people actually had a role in picking the setting and stuff like that, for sure. Yeah. They're going to be more invested in general. That's true.
Yeah, and I was telling these guys a lot of times I will actually sit down with my players and just ask them just point blank, what kind of game do you want to play, and then build the world then around those ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had campaigns go for as much as 5 years before, but like the idea of one going for 10 years seems a bit more than I'd be willing to do.
I had one that went for about 15.
Yeah. See, wow. I've never done that. Like for me, there's like generally like a story and like a kind of a you kind of find it as you're doing the campaigns. You don't always know what it's going to be when you start. You want to get a game going, and sometimes like it frequently does not go where you were thinking it was going to go in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I've got one of those right now where the players did an end run around my plot, and like what I thought was going to be how the campaign wrapped up is completely irrelevant now, and I do not know how we're resolving it. But it's just this crazy adventure these guys are on. There's not really like a solid direction. They just kind of go in and out of plots constantly. So
I have an interesting problem here that I think a lot of people don't have, because most people who build long form sessions, mm-hmm. they get really invested in their own world, and you have to have that investment in your own world for other people to have that investment. It's mm-hmm. like a dog, because your dog picks up your energy, right? And if you don't give the right type of energies when dealing with your dog, they're going to end up having bad behavior. It's kind of true for players a little bit. If they're gonna pick up your intensity if you're intense, they're gonna pick up your comedy if you're comedic, right? And but my point with all that is, I usually get about half a year in, sometimes up to a year, and I just get bored of my own campaign that I'm making.
It happens,
and I don't know why. It's a problem I have, where I really have trouble doing long-term investments in my own campaign settings that I build from scratch even.
well, then that means that you need to plan a story that resolves in less than 6 months. Like that just has to be your plan, Greg. I mean, like, know.
So I guess the lesson there is know yourself.
Yeah. And I think all of us are creative individuals in whatever, form. But I think to being a creative individual, you're always thinking about that next thing.
Yes,
and
that's my problem.
And and then you're like, ooh, I really want to get to this. And then sometimes that can interfere with the game that you're currently running and then kind of force you into drawing it to maybe a premature close just because you want to get onto that next thing.
That's where you need an idea file.
Yeah. And you got to just read the temperature of the room. If everybody else is feeling the same way that you are, figure out a way to kind of fast forward things or get them where they need to go, and then move on to the next.
Usually I have to tell my players, sorry, I'm sick of it. Can someone else game for a bit?
Well, I mean, how many times have we said, play to your strengths, right?
Yeah.
And so, you could, because if you wanted to pick up your Star Wars campaign, obviously one of the players won't be there, but I guarantee that Chaz and Marks would be right there with me, ready to get going again.
Yeah. I think I was the one who got sick of it, not you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And I absolutely would be on board with doing more of that if you want to pick up that same campaign.
Maybe someone else can pick it up.
What?
No. Delane, I'll say this. If you build a world that is an existing world and you're trying to make your own mark in it, I'm going to contradict what we just said. I have dick in my head. I'm going to contradict what I said in my last inside joke. In my last the last episode, right?
Well, I do have rude gestures on my chest, Greg. So it's
it's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to contradict what I said in the last episode. Sometimes when you are in an established world, it almost becomes harder to come up with things because you have a whole set of lore and rules that you have to fit your stuff into. And especially when you play with someone, I'm not going to name any names like Woody, but who know the lore better than me.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, fuck, I'm going to fuck this up and he's going to just call me out on it. I'm going to be like, no, it's because of this.
That's why I don't do Star Wars. I don't know.
No. See, the problem is
don't be rich. I don't have my vodka.
I had the Essential Atlas.
He's sending me screenshots of like, hey, you need this? I'm like, I'm just going to make it up. I don't know.
I thought he was reaching for the Rifts book there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's a really rich setting, too.
All right, Greg, drink. Take your shot.
It's the last of my vodka.
No, I have 4 shelves right next to me you guys can't see, and they are packed with almost everything Palladium ever made.
I got stuff in my flavor saver. But anyway.
There's a couple of exceptions here, but it's like,
so that's it is a two-handed sword, a double-edged sword to when you're playing with existing lores and worlds, because you do have to fit it in, but at the same time you have so much established that if you had to make something up on the fly, you can just pull it from existing lore, right? Yeah. So it's and that's what's benefit if you do like what Tyner said last episode, which is the what if. If you actually change something critical and make it clear that you're changing something critical in the lore, then kind of anything's available in a way, right?
I have to disagree with you there, Greg, because I think going into an established universe, and I'm sure Tyner playing Marvel, can have something to say about this, but I think that actually gives you more freedom in a lot of ways because you can always take it in a different direction because it's very rare when you run across a game designer who's published like a series, even whether it's something as big as Rifts or Marvel or anything, where they basically are so slavish to their own content they say you cannot change it. In fact, the smart ones actually encourage you to do so, because there is nothing worse when you're creating something and having total freedom, right? Like you need some sort of a guide for yourself. The best thing you can have when you're creating is to put some sort of rails for yourself. Like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and that is your starting point. And you build from that foundation, right? Of what it is, and having an established world, whether it's got a huge lore or a small one, you have this foundation to build off of, and then you're going in this direction, and you can change all kinds of stuff. Like if you want to make changes to the Star Wars universe, fuck us. just you're
No, I'm married. Jesus.
Yeah, no, but like it doesn't matter because I mean, like, in the Star Wars universe is so big, you could have done anything. I mean, like, yeah. Exar Kun was on Yavin. Who cares? How do we know that other people didn't show up after him? Like, he could, there's so much depth in the story and so much like space to put anything there, whether it's riffs or Star Wars or
I would say if you do that, you do need to make it clear that you're doing that. Not like specifically, because that'll give away your story, but you got to make it clear that, some of this won't match what you might know, because otherwise you will have players going, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like,
you never did
also, right. But like, just because I know the lore, my character, like me, doesn't mean that my character does.
Right.
Yeah. We I mean, I was like, okay, is this going to be Exar Kun or something else? And silently, but like, it didn't have to be because you also quite smartly said, no, there's more temples on the other side of the planet. So we didn't know which one we were even in. Like,
You're just going to say it's alternate universe. It's the Horvey verse. This is different.
Yes.
The Horvey verse.
Yeah. It's the Horror Wars universe.
Horror War. Anyway.
Yeah.
The other, completely shifting gears, the other thing I would say about long-term campaigns, you have to be careful with backstories, because one problem I have is I like to play into backstories. In fact, I would say that most of my world building basically starts with backstories. I kind of put them in a setting, and then I see what their backstories are, and then I build out from there a lot of times. But my problem I have is I really want to progress their backstories. Whenever it comes up, I'm like, I'm going to give them all the information. Just get that good roll, right? And what ends up happening is I sometimes will just crush their backstories within a few sessions by accident, right? And then it's like after session 6, all their backstories are resolved. They've killed that first baddie that you've set up, like we'll call it the first arc, right? And now you're like, well, what can the players play on? There's no more backstory.
Well,
so you do have to be careful with that.
If you've done a good job of building on that, and like, that first bad guy that they're encountering, which should be slightly above their level, it's like a little bit of a hard thing for them to achieve. That adventure should expose what the next thing is in the story. So by the time they resolve that, they should already have a clear picture of like either where they're going or what their options are, or what they're going to do next. Like they should have some clear idea of what they're going to decide to do. And it doesn't matter if you resolve the backstories quickly. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because that doesn't have to be necessarily what carries them through the campaign. Like in Stargate, they didn't have Jack O'Neill's hang up on kids. They didn't wait till season 10 to resolve it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They resolved it like episode 10.
Yeah. So Tyner, you did. I'm just gonna say, Get Charlotte is one pops in my head, where all the characters had secrets and stuff, and the only players knew about, and you were trying to tie in the whole Tarantino verse. So how did you plan out that kind of long form in your head, and trying to weave in those backstories?
Well, I mean, number one, it's talking to your players and then giving them something kind of intriguing, about it, and just, I think in your case, what was it? I mean, you had you ended up killing a guy in in a match in Las Vegas, where you were in the boxing ring, and then you had to move away and change your face, change your identity, so that the mob couldn't come after you. And does this come out in the story? It may or may not, but it definitely gives some character motivation for sure. But I think when it comes to, I think, kind of getting back on track a little bit as far as like building the overall arcing story, the beginning, the end, those are always important, but then you got to figure out what really comes in between. Some of that character development stuff plays very, very heavily, I think, into that. And that's always something that I will usually try to do with some of my players, is just to get at least a little bit of the backstory, so that I can maybe weave a little bit of that in. But there are two things for me that I always start with. And I think there's plenty of different ways to kind of go about this, and everybody's got their own way of kind of creating those story beats. But for me, and this is something I think, Greg, that you kind of mentioned about when you're doing world building, is coming up with the adversaries, figuring out who you want, your players to kind of go up against. So after I've got my world, that's the next thing that I do, is I start looking at potential adversaries that I want these characters to go up against. And then the next thing that I do, I'm really inspired by maps. And I go on to Pinterest and Google Images, and then just type in blank RPG map. Whether blank is a cemetery or a cathedral or a sanctum or whatever the case may be, and just there you go.
Yeah.
And just see what's there. And then I'm like, ooh, I like that map. Okay, what story can I build around that? And then once you've got stuff like that inspiration, that's when you start connecting the dots, and then finding your story beats, point A to point B, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. What are some other things like, that's true for like maps? Sometimes people look at monsters and they get an idea from just looking at monsters, I think.
You can get ideas from all kinds of places. The only thing that I would caution on for me is that, like, because like kind of the genesis of this show, I don't know if they mentioned this, Tyner, was like presenting this information to people that have never done it before.
Yeah.
Because like I go to conventions and I'm selling my own RPG products, and I'm constantly running into people that are brand new to the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely wanted somewhere to send them where I feel like they're getting the right information, right? Because I certainly can't just do the mind meld and just, but like 35 years of knowledge, it takes a long time to share it. But like for somebody who's like, say, for you or me or like some of my peers here in the show, like if you were to start a campaign and you already had an idea about how you wanted to end, I think all of us could get away with that. But like the majority of your newer players, or even people that have only been at it for maybe 10 years or less, I mean, that's a tall ask, right? And it's probably not going to work.
Well, and that could definitely kind of go into railroading as well. Yeah.
Which we definitely talked about. It's actually funny because we were talking about that in one of our last batch of episodes. And the joke being that right now I have a campaign going on where my players have constructed for themselves an interdimensional train. So they literally are running on rails in the storyline. They're going from reality to reality on a train.
Yeah. So for those new players, those new GMs that are trying to do a long form campaign, what's some advice for them? I mean, my advice would be you don't need to make a really long one. You can think simpler, keep it more localized, probably, or something like that, I guess.
I think you don't necessarily like you can have like a bigger arc. You have an idea about where, like, with the world, but you don't necessarily have to plan everything months in advance either.
Right.
Like most of it is still going to be figuring out week to week, just like any other game.
Yeah, and I think on that subject, I think of railroading too. I mean, back when I first started, when I was 13, I mean, I drove that train like a bat out of hell. But I think in my 20s, then I started listening to my players, and as experienced GMs, we try to refrain from doing railroading as much as possible. Yeah, but we do have a story to tell as well. And I think that beginning and ending point, I think, is important because you at least have a goal. Now, and I mentioned this in the last episode, but, depending on what your players do, that finale that you had planned may never happen. And that's cool.
I think
you've got to be cool with that. Yeah.
That is a frequent problem.
Right. Yeah. But I think that the new GMs have to, if they railroad their first couple of campaigns, fine, but they at least get their feet wet. They know, they kind of feel what they're doing, and then they can start listening to the players because they are the stars of the story. Mm-hmm. Let them contribute to the vision, and then they will take you, the GM, to places that you never even imagined.
Frequently, these groups that I'm talking to, the players are also relatively new as well. Like mm-hmm. you have this family or a group of friends that are like, okay, we want to do it. okay, you're the game master, and they just pick somebody, or like I'd have a family where they want to play, but nobody's actually going to step up, and I kind of had to like rip the Band-Aid off. Like, no, one of you is going to have to do it, and it's going to be the one who's the least offended by it.
Yeah,
yeah.
And Woody, I think you mentioned something about trying to what the story it is that you want to tell, but you kind of got to take it like a step at a time.
You do, yeah.
And when I'm working a long form campaign, I usually will try to stay like maybe 3, maybe 4 sessions ahead of my players based on the decisions that they have made so far.
Yeah, and I usually am figuring out week to week. Like I have like things that they are, because like with my Saturday game where they're playing riffs. There's your second chance, Greg, if you want to get another shot.
He only does it once.
But like with them,
you've done this to me. Oh, there's more.
Oh yeah. Well, like as I'm sure you can relate, and I've said this many times, that there is frequently you're going to end the game with in a spot where you can't prep for the next week, because you don't know what decision they're about to make, or there's something critical about to happen. We're done. We can't keep going. And it's like, you have to come with a really good improv game.
Yeah. You've got to be ready to change in an instant.
Exactly. So having your fundamentals in, is really key. Right. And, but like, and like these guys have plot lines that they're trying to resolve, that there's things that are coming that, like sometimes I've deliberately stretched an event out to try to give myself more time, but like, they have a number of things that they're trying to do, and some things just kind of get pushed to the side, and other things are, they have to happen, but they are these major goalposts in the campaign. And so like, I'm prepared for any one of those. Right. And so I guess technically, yes, I'm 3 months in advance, but like, I don't usually think about it like that. It's,
I mean, do you, if they really kind of go off track, I mean, do you sprinkle little breadcrumbs for them?
Well, there's no such thing as going off track.
Right.
Like as you said, and I have said it as well, like they are the stars of the story. So it's like, it doesn't matter what they choose to do. Like, maybe you were prepped for something else. The only time it's a problem is if you have a game master, and I have met these people where they can only do what they're prepped for, and they lack improvisational skills. And they're totally intransigent. If that's the right word, but like they just can't change, right? And they won't meet you in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And so that's rough
for a new GM though. I mean, most new GMs don't have that skill yet?
Some do.
Some do.
Actually. Like our previous guest, that was the only skill he had when he started. was
improv. Yeah.
That was his only skill when he first began. And so that's what he came to the table with. Greg,
but that's rare though, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty rare. I didn't have it when I started.
It depends. Greg, you were trying to jump in on something?
Oh, I was going to say with the breadcrumbs idea, I like that idea, but it's more like, instead of breadcrumbs, it's more like you have a story planned, and they decide to take a curveball and go somewhere else. There's no reason that story can't just relocate to that new place.
Well, because like, I don't know if you caught any of our episodes, but there was one episode that we did. Well, for us, it's longer than the audiences listening to this, but like so I was talking about this idea of how to do railroading without railroading. And so you're talking about breadcrumbs. Well, the breadcrumb technique, if you want to call it that, is how you would entice the players to make the decisions that you want them to make, right? And be prepared for the other decision. But like, if you're really good at populating the world with like mysteries and the breadcrumbs and the little things that make them interested, like, because after a while, your players, what they're going to bite on. At least you should. Like, you can generally, once you got rolling with the campaign for a while, you can get them to do whatever you want to do, and they will do it like clockwork. You just have to understand how to get them to perform. Like, you have to know what enticement will get the result you want.
Well, and players, I think, are bloodhounds. That they'll sniff out the story. If you put the right thing in front of them, then they will gravitate towards it.
Right. And if you know there's somebody who's just too dense to follow, then don't waste your time on that guy.
Yeah.
I know it sounds rude, but
you're not good enough. You're fired.
Well, no. So Keenan and I were kind of alluding to a player that we were talking about, like, who had who was his problem player in this campaign we were in, and like I got to run a game for these people. I was running a superhero game for them, and I went out of my way to make something for everyone, right? Something exciting, and I was literally beating this person over the head with a plot, and they couldn't see it, and it was bizarrely frustrating. You know?
So I have, because you mentioned it, I had to do it now.
Okay, yay, we're back.
Notes. Maybe
do you see it? I don't see it for some reason.
Don't see anything.
That is a wonderful black screen, Greg. So this is the theater of the mind.
Computer.
No, this is the theater of the mind topic we were talking about off camera.
Hey, there
we go. Hey. Okay, it's back.
Yeah. So we were talking about. This is probably one of the most important things you can point out, I think, is that the first session establish a tone. Everything you want the campaign to be, make sure you get it right in the first session. That's probably, I agree. And it doesn't need combat. We do have an episode on how to start these campaigns, and putting them into a dire situation is a very valid way to start it out. And especially for new GMs, I would say that is also a bit easier because it makes your players have a certain camaraderie immediately.
Can I interject something on starting tone, by the way? Because like I was in my youth, I was very much like taking it very seriously, and you know, Chris, you're dealing with teenagers, and they can very easily go in every direction. But but it's very hard to keep them on. Your job is to keep them on task, right? But like I've come around to the idea in my later years that if everybody's not laughing, you're doing it wrong, and I think that you can keep the story very serious, right? And moving in, like, it could be very serious for the players, but like, I think that your goal is to have a good time, right? And if people are, even if the whole thing is very serious for the characters, right? If the players are laughing and having a good time, and they're dropping in their one-liners, and they're finding something funny, and in spite of the situation, I think you're really doing like a great service for the people that showed up to the table. Like, you know,
I don't know. I've seen it both ways. I really don't know. I agree with you that I like the campaigns where people are laughing.
Yeah,
but I have seen people that I think enjoyed campaigns that did a serious campaign, usually a horror campaign or something. So
okay. So our next topic is going to be streaming. I will tell you that the campaigns where they're not laughing are boring as shit, and and they're very hard to watch, and it's very easy to get caught up in the experience if you're watching people that are clearly having a good time, and they are. You know, like they're doing things to excite the audience. And,
but that's also a different thing because you're playing to an audience too.
No, so true. But I think your first audience is your players.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you, if you can't get them
if people are laughing, it's not going to be a bad thing. As long as they're not laughing at scary stuff.
I have more to say on that, but we can talk about it on the stream.
It's just for me. That's a critical component of the experience. Is that I want people to have so much fun that they want to come back to the table. Like you're competing with movies, you're competing with television, you're competing with books. You know, like you need a stable player base. That means they have to be getting something out of this experience they're not going to get anywhere else. And that's how you get your players to come back.
Yeah. So we talked about player investment, and obviously playing what the players wants to play obviously helps. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways, and we do have an episode on that if you want to go find that on getting player investment. I think
we got episodes on a lot of these,
and I do agree with this generally, which is you build a solid beginning, try to build, have an understanding of what the end is, and just accept the fact that it can change. I think it's a very good starting point. Yeah. We came up with some advice for new GMs, which is don't overplan. I can't stress that one enough. You'll kill yourself overplaying. You'll burn out. Keep things simple. If you're going to be a new GM, don't try to do like this big world building Lord of the Rings thing out of the gate. Try to make it more local, simpler to start if you're new to GMing. But there's no reason you can't get there after a few episodes and you're getting used to it, right? Listen to players, though. I think, Tyner, you made the point that you don't necessarily need to on the first couple of sessions. It can be a bit more railroady on the first couple of sessions, and then eventually start bringing in their feedback and stuff when you feel more comfortable doing that. eventually you definitely have to do that because the players are the story.
Yep.
And then create fundamentals, plots, adversaries, etc. We talked about in the last episode too. It's as long as you have like an idea of the fundamentals, it makes everything else easier. Other things we talked about is find things that bring out ideas, maps, monsters. I don't think we said any others, but there's a ton of other things to give you ideas, shows, movies, books. Know yourself. That's talking to me. I know I get bored of stuff, but anyway. Established universe. For established universes, what did we say? We said, you said don't be afraid to change. That's something I could take to heart. Is don't be afraid to change the lore. Tell your players that not all lore is going to be what's established. Just be prepared for that. And that makes it better for them because they're not sure that way, right? Their knowledge means is
keep on their toes.
Yep. This is a good point that you brought up, Woody, is when you resolve an arc, make sure they have clear ideas of the next arc or arcs that are possible, right? You don't want them to just be like, well, it's like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, that's the worst place to be. Yeah. Yeah, because then you got to scramble to put it together.
And somebody runs in and goes, "There's a dragon attacking this kingdom,"
and they're like, "Thank God! Oh my God, I needed something." Yeah,
and that comes to the second part, the last part, which is this is what I wrote for what you guys were talking about at the end there, which is people will want to follow leads. It's not like you want if they think your lead's too obvious. Oh, that's no good. No, they want to lead. Most players want to find those leads, right?
Yes, they'll
seek it out. So the only problem is they don't notice, but. Usually, don't be afraid to make them even a little bit obvious. I'll say this too. If you think something's genius, it's impossible for your players to get. If you think something's smart, your genius players will get. If you think something's dumb, your smart players will get. Like everything when you're planning, in my experience, it's much harder for players to especially for traps. You think it's kind of obvious. It's going to be pretty hard for the players. I don't know why it's just you have context in your head and they don't.
We've talked about it before. If you have only one solution, they're never going to find it. But this line 19 also follows into the whole reading the room bit too. You have to know who your players are, and like I said, don't waste time on the player isn't going to get it. Their involvement's going to be something else. Find out what they want and give them that.
If you have a player that puts the pins with strings on a map, that's the person you got to get invested.
Yeah, totally.
Because they'll probably just make your campaign. You'll be like, yes, that is exactly it.
So we are over budget on this episode by 9 minutes. So
yes. Oh yeah, we are. Oops.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, if I can make one little final point, and just
as long as it takes you 10 minutes to get there.
Okay. Yeah. Thinking about the final arc, after you've done your 12 sessions or 30 sessions or what have you, everything has to lead to that final arc. And then whatever you had planned is probably not where they're ending up. But you got to take all of the story that you've created with the players throughout the campaign and then give them the grand finale. An epic finale is great, but sometimes even a simple ending can be just as satisfying. I found my dad, and he and I are going to go off and we're going to farm the land, and that's it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be just a big blowout battle. I've had several campaigns that have just ended on just a nice, solemn or, heartwarming little note at the end. So
it needs to be relevant to the characters and what the players are trying to do with them.
Yeah. That's why that's why I said you got to really listen to what they're saying and where they've led you. But just take everything that they've given you and then create something that works for the group.
Okay. Well, I think we have an episode, Marks.
I think we do. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Tyner, for joining us for another episode. And that's it for today for Are the Game. So we'll be back with more episodes. Remember, we got a whole playlist, tons of episodes, over 30 episodes so far. It's crazy. And then we got actual plays out there too, and genre play. There's over 30 of those.
And they're in the right order now.
Yeah. And then you can go to Dreamslayer Studios and watch even more stuff. There's tons of stuff out there. So
200 plus episodes.
And you can watch us play the Sad Hot Dog Man.
Yes, we have Sad Hot Dog Man out there as an actual play. So just look it up on genre play. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to leave us. Oh, I forgot to say this last time. In the comments, let us know what you do for long form campaigns, any tips, tricks that you could share with us, and let's make it a conversation in the comment section. All right. Well, until next time,
keep making it long.
Yeah, go long.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when they crash, it's a barely laugh. Genre play, lighting the way. Our tales